Heisel B. Taylor, and that's when I got married. After we couldn't send him to school anymore, he got out. Then we got Pastor Stephen, and he couldn't take, his wife was a pianist, and every time she'd be playing good in the service, getting down in the service, she all holler, Arthur, don't let those people run over you. And the chairman of the board said, you know, later on after service, you have to control your wife. Don't let her get up there saying things like that when you're having good service going on. He said, I love her. So around 2 or 3 Sunday or a month later, she did it again. And they, you know, just said, well, I see you can't control your wife. We're going to have to put you out of here. So they voted and put it, and he left. And then after then, Stephen, then here come Pastor Clintsdale. Well, what happened before Pastor Clintsdale got there was that church was going so down there, down on 328 4th, until it was too crowded. So what the board, the chairman, the deacon board, and the trustee board got together, and they said, we're going to sell this church for $8,000. And, you know, it started at $8,000, and if you can't get $8,000 for it, go down. So in the meantime, this freeway was coming through. Mount Sinai had a little shack over there. They gave him $12,000 for it. So Deacon Jones said, we'll take that. We had selling our church. We'll take that $12,000. So that's what we did. They took the $12,000, but the Mount Sinai said, you got to get out of here. We want this church. So we had to give up, you know, get out of the church. Now we don't have no pastor, and then we don't have no church. So what they did, they went out and got the pastor first, and the pastor they got was Pastor Henry Clintsdale. So I always tell him, I said, Pastor Clintsdale, when we got you in '69, we didn't even have a church. So what we did was old church down there on the corner of Jackson Street and Centenary as a Methodist church. They moved over on Belmont. We got that church, rented that church. So we knew water was in the basement at all times. So we just stayed out of the basement and had the service up on the first floor. But it started raining so hard, and water started coming through the top, and those ladies were hollering and going on. And we said, we can't stay here. So then they rented the Roosevelt School, and that's what we were having our service in Roosevelt School until 1970. They decided they buy this church here.
Wow.
Well, something was in common with this church and the others that we had. They all had water in the basement. and water was, this is not a basement, but this is the first floor. And I did a lot of patchwork. All around here, that's still messed up. So I always said, and when we was in Hazleton, water's in the basement. We went to Forest, water in the basement. Went on Wilson Avenue, water in the basement. Came here, water on the first floor. I said, that's one thing stuck out to me. We had water everywhere we go. That one. So that's how I know how to take this here, dig all along that side there, put slag in there, then pack it down. But I couldn't do anything for that side over there because they already had blacktop over there. So that's about all I have to say. I just say that, I say this little part here. When we bought this church for $35,000 plus the parsonage next door. We paid $35,000. We have a 6-year mortgage. We paid it off in 3 years. And it's ours. And hallelujah. That's the end.
Deacon Bell, can I ask you a question? What year did you become deacon?
I'll say that little part too. What happened is we got that one fixed down there. So July the 2nd Sunday in July 1956, Pastor Simon decided he would ordain Reverend Sister Powell, Joe Feld as a deacon, Dave Nichols as a deacon, and Edward Bell Jr. as a deacon.
How old were you
What
then?
happened is I was the secretary of the board at that time. So Pastor Britt Tristone, he was the moderator. So what happened, we got ordained at 3 o'clock the second Sunday in July. And that Tuesday, Pastor Simon brought me the letter and said, it was to him and the church, and he said, read it. I read it and said, you guys have gone against the Constitution of the Baptists. You are out of the association. So they threw us out. But that was okay. Because Pastor Simon the next day he got some Pennsylvania. And I remember, I don't know about the state, but the National Convention, Pastor Jackson was the moderator and the head of that. We didn't get nothing from the federal, from the national. We didn't get anything from the state. All we got from it was from the local here. So that's it. So I got ordained second Sunday in July at 3 o'clock, 1956.
Wow. How old were you then, Deacon?
Like in 2 weeks before I turned 20 years old. And how I got on the board so early is when I came here, a lot of the deacons couldn't kind of read and write, so they would take their record and write on a little piece of paper and throw it away. When they needed something to go to the church, a recommendation to go to church, they have the church clerk come and sit in on that and take those minutes and present it to the church. But when I came, since I would live 2 or 3 doors from the church, I used to go to prayer meeting and everything, and then they just said, young fella, you 18, you just keep record of the deacon board. So I sat in there all those years until I got 19, and then they said they were going to ordain me. Then some of the deacons said, nope, we don't ordain senior, single people. But then they went on to ordain me. But they watched me like a hawk. And guess what? I didn't date no girls from this church. No dating. I had to go out to all these other churches.
Well done.
So that's it, young. That's about how I just looked in this here. And I saw things that wasn't in here, so that's what I was going to use, because I could sat here and read everything in here for you. But they haven't heard. When they said, it gets me though. I saw in a write-up one time when they said the church split and took half here and half we stayed. That was so wrong, because we had a large membership and they only took. And by the way, for Pastor, I bet you didn't know this. Brother Adam, when he went with them, guess what? They made him a deacon.
What?
Yeah, he made him a deacon. But he came back, but he didn't tell him they made him a deacon. He came back as a trustee here, and the Adams came back, Sister Love came back, Sister Snipe didn't come back, Arthur May didn't come back, Deacon James didn't come back. But some of them came back, and they said, reason they came back, they said when they have meetings, we have calm meetings, because those preachers were going like lickety split. But we always have calm meetings. But he said over there at Price Memorial, Philip Memorial, they would bring guns when they have meetings. He said that scared him. He came back. He was glad to get back to Elizabeth. Yep. No, they ordained him as a deacon, but when he came back, he didn't say one word. He just went on the trustee board. That's it, brother. See, I told you.
Any questions for Deacon Bell? Any questions?
Deacon Bell, who's the pastor at Phillips Memorial when the church kind of sort of split in '54?
Who was there before White got there?
No, I'm talking about who was the pastor. In other words, when the members decided to split and go to Phillips Memorial, who was the pastor?
At that time,
Yeah, I'm talking about at Phillips Memorial, not at Elizabeth.
well, see, Philip Memorial didn't. It wasn't no Philip Memorial.
Okay.
White, the pastor that took that money and wouldn't give it back to her, he the one that started Philip Memorial. There wasn't no Philip Memorial.
Okay.
He started it. So I like to go over there and look at his, sheet and see how many that did he have, other than our people that those 6 or 7 that he took away with him. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
How did you guys keep history back then? Who was in charge?
Well, we had clerks and secretaries. I kept the deacon board report for years because they didn't keep good record, but I kept my records. And anytime the pastor wanted to know who joined the church and all like that, I would tell them. That was a personal record. We would take the minutes down and give it to the church, but I kept my books too.
Right.
So they the one that kept. We had clerks and they were up to speed. But I noticed sometimes I'm only talking about early 50s now. I don't know about 1931 and 22. I only kept up with it after I got here. I paid close attention. But I didn't never think I would be a deacon though. But they chose to, and my father was a deacon too. And so, but I always said, you was a deacon at 50-something. I was a deacon before I was 20.
Yes, sir.
Because they definitely, even here, I noticed when we have those pastors, I told you it was 18 of them. But every time we go to get a pastor, guess who wins? The youngest one wins. Pastor Simon was only 26. The pastor, Heisey B. Taylor, that married me, he was 26. They were young at the time.
Wow.
But and Pastor Clinskale ran twice. He ran when Pastor Stephen kind of beat him out. So Stephen was here around 2 or 3 years. And Pastor Clinskale, we went and got him this time, and he made the pastorship. But he applied for the job 2 different times. He lost out the first time to Stephen. Stephen was gone in 2 years, so then he applied for the job again, and he got it. And I always say, you got it when, repeat myself to you all, you got it when we didn't even have a church.
He stayed, what, 37
Yeah,
years?
37 or 38 years he was here. With the rest of them, Pastor Simon got 5 years. The pastor after him only got 1 year. Taylor got 2 or 3 years. They wouldn't stand very long. Pastor Hurd is blessed because they would grab him. Any little thing you do, they'll get that boy to take you to the church and they'll put you out.
So Pastor Deacon Bell, can you, maybe I shouldn't want to ask this question, but can you take a purview back into where we are now and kind of see, what's the difference or where we lacking? Are we missing something from the because
One thing about it, Pastor, I must admit, Pastor Clinskale stayed here like his 30-some years, and you've been here like what? But see, it was something going on all the time. Those pastors, they would do things, and like Pastor Simon, that man, he had charisma, and he just filled the church up, filled that church up. But he had other problems. and like I said, here, Pastor Stephen, his wife, you having a good time serving, and that woman sitting on that organ saying, "Arthur, don't let him run over you." Boy, I'd be so ashamed. I'd be so ashamed. And then when she done it again, Deacon Fletcher was the chairman of the board at that time. He said, "We're going to have to do something." Then let me tell you what he did. When all these people were there when we're going to have a meeting, and he come to the board and say, I got her straightened out now. She's not going to do that anymore. So Deacon Fletcher said, "Well, all these people here to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting, and if you win, you stay here. But if you vote you out, you out. And he was out. and he was he was my friend. He was my friend, but he was out. Well, it took me, we talked it over, and she won't do that anymore. Well, okay. Okay, but we're going to have a meeting since all these people have come for the meeting. Voted that man and voted him right out.
But make a note that she later came and became the minister of music here for 10 years.
Yeah, but and Pastor, they didn't stay together that long. They went down to Mount Zion, and they wasn't, he said, I love my wife, and but they wasn't, they separated.
Deacon Bell, have they changed the, you were saying that there was some trepidation about you being a deacon given the fact that you were single.
Mm-hmm.
Have they changed those rules now? In other words, could I be a deacon?
Well, see, they always had within the church, like Third Baptist, Third Baptist still have it that way. You have to be, married with a wife. But you know what they're using when they say the husband of one wife. Well, that's because in the biblical time, those guys had a lot of wives.
Yeah.
So they want you to have one wife, govern your household well.
But Jesus wasn't married.
Well, we not Jesus.
When I became pastor of EBC, I was single.
Yeah.
Each church have their own constitution.
Right.
That's another thing. We got ours in.
So, how'd you feel the way you felt about dating inside the church?
Well. See, that's just another thing about that dating part. They always told me, if you don't get out of this house, and all you do is go to church all the time, get out of this house and go to some party or something, you're never gonna get married. But I had my eye on a lady at Gospel Temple, and I didn't care what they said, So we eventually got married in 63. My best friend got married in 62, and I got married in 63. And you just have to do the right thing. That's all I got to say.
That's right.
And some of the preachers, you're not no preacher. and some of those preachers love the other people, And that's why they were getting in a lot of trouble too. Drinking, when I was coming on as a young deacon, they drank and they liked ladies.
Well,
so
I think that whether you're single or you're married, there's a standard that you have to live. I don't care if you're a deacon, I don't care if you're a pastor.
That's true.
If you're a Christian, if you're a born again believer, you have to have a level and a standard of holiness. I don't care what, and you can date anybody you want to and still be holy. They can be in the church, they can be in this church, they can be at another church, but it's not about them being in this church or you dating in this church. It's about your heart as you date. And I believe Christians, especially men, should not be dating unless they have an intention of marriage. You go on one date, you know you're not going to marry her, keep moving. You know you're not going to marry her, you know that's not what you really want, that's not what you want to take home to mama. So just go keep moving, don't stay long because then you'll sin, trust me.
Right.
Amen, you understand, you know about that clearance, right?
Pastor, you mentioned to me
no
one time,
proof.
I guess on one of our trips, you mentioned to me.
Great job.
You got a
Thank you.
memory.
Thank you.